All right, joining me now, first time on the SI Media podcast. Very happy to have him, and I feel very important because he's actually doing this from a car, which I don't know, makes me feel like we had to get this done. And it's the host of First Take on ESPN, and also Stephen A's World, Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A., how are you?
I'm doing all right, man. How are you?
I'm good. We've had let's see, Keith Hernandez did this podcast from his backyard in Sag Harbor. And we had someone do it out. I think Andrew Siciliano did it outside the NFL studios and NFL Network. Now we have you in a car. So I like this. It's, everyone's got all the fancy setups these days. I like something a little different without the fancy background.
I'm in a car off right before exit 3 on the New Jersey Turnpike heading home. All
right. Wednesday's a good night. We got no football tonight. So it's, and the NBA hasn't started yet. So we can take some time here and get into this. But before we get into anything, how did you find out you were being, I don't want to use the word made fun of because that has a negative connotation. You were featured on John Oliver's show over the weekend in a very funny bit.
Oh man, it was funny. Listen, when you're on TV as much as I am, and in social media in terms of, my videos being posted for First Take, Stephen A's World and other places and stuff like that, that comes with the territory, man. All I ever ask is for people to be funny and to be as accurate as you can be. I accept responsibility and accountability for anything that I do on the airwaves. And if I make people laugh because of my facial expressions in this case, or some of the things that I say, that's what comes with it. Jay Farrell for Saturday Night Live interviewed or imitated me years ago. Obviously, Frank Caliendo has done it. Scott Van Pelt has done it. Jamie Foxx has done it. The list just goes on and on. This guy Shiggy that has his own space on Instagram, with me stuttering and stuff like that. I'm just sitting there going like, these guys are hilarious, man. And, when they do that good of a job of getting me down, what the hell am I going to say? I mean, I'm looking at myself. I'm like, yeah, I did do that. So it doesn't bother me at all, and John Oliver's great. So it was funny. I'm mad I didn't think about it. I didn't think of it myself.
that one, I've written many times that what you do is performance art. Would you say that's fair or unfair?
I don't think about it that way. I'm not going to say it's unfair. I can understand that interpretation. I would tell you that we're in a personality-driven business. I would tell you that the E in ESPN stands for entertainment. So I get that part, and it doesn't offend me in the slightest. My biggest thing is just making sure that, just don't forget my resume. That's what I tell people, even the cynics, the critics. Don't forget my resume. I scratched and clawed my way to where I am today. I was in the press boxes. I started off as a high school writer. I was an intern before that. And I elevated from high school to colleges to the pros to being an NBA columnist. And in 2003, when I became a general sports columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer, I was the 21st person in the history of the 21st African-American in the history of this country to be named the general sports columnist. I paid dues to get here. And so for me, the only thing that makes me reluctant or apprehensive for people to talk about, me, just it's like a performing art, or for me as a personality, the only reticence I have about it in any way is when I feel somebody is trying to do that, to gloss over a resume that I've earned. As long as they recognize and recall my resume, I'm totally good with it.
Well, listen, put the resume aside, and it is a lengthy resume. And I remember you as your days as a Philly columnist. Put that aside. When someone says performance art, when I'm saying it, at least, that's a skill and a talent. I mean, not everybody can do it. I think actually very few people can do it where it's effective. So yeah, in a way, it's a compliment, I think.
Well, I take it that way. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I take it. I'm not saying that I don't take it that way, especially from you. What I'm saying is there are people who are cynics that would say that, but it's after a litany of insults or whatever would be thrown in my direction. And it's usually with them forgetting my resume. And that's the only thing that, I'm never hesitant to remind people of, because it's my way of saying, I put in the work. Now you're doing television, things have changed. And so it's not just about what you say. It's about how you say it. It's how you look. It's your diction, it's your tenor, it's your mood, it's all of those different things. It's listening to the person that's across from you. It's getting where they're coming from and how. It's telling the audience that you think they're full of it without saying they're full of it. It's telling the audience it's a wow moment without saying wow. All of those different things that you're pointing to are things that I've been blessed and fortunate enough to some degree to have mastered doing what I do. And some of it is learned. Some of it just comes natural to me. And I'm proud to be able to say that, I can, react extemporaneously. I can act off the cuff and just naturally get what an audience would like to see and hear. And I am proud of that. So you're right. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. And you mentioned obviously the resume, and obviously now you are the man at ESPN with multiple shows. And with that comes, I think, a couple of things that I find very interesting. There's two things there. When you're in that position, I think you can obviously get away with a lot more than most people. I don't, sometimes I say maybe you're an untouchable at ESPN. In this day and age, I don't know if anyone's untouchable, since, one word
I'm
gets
not.
you. Yeah. But
I can show you I'm not untouchable. But I got
you. But you recently did two things that I appreciated in this business. The first one is you did a radio interview recently. I think it may have been with Charlemagne. I'm not 100% sure. I should have looked that up. But where you said, you came out, and I wish more people would do this. Your goal is to make ESPN money, and then for you to get a cut of that money. That was the Breakfast Club. That was Charlemagne. Breakfast Club.
Yes.
Yeah. And why don't more people just say that's what this is all about?
I think that people try to come across as self-righteous, as upstanding, as neutral, without any feelings of subjectivity whatsoever. And they just don't get. No one's buying that anymore. Gone are the days of looking at a Ted Koppel, a Peter Jennings, a Tom Brokaw, a Dan Rather, a Sam Donaldson covering the White House and other stuff like that, and looking at them and saying, they're totally objective. They have no feelings about it. They're just giving you the facts. The American public, at the very least, has said, no, that's not good enough anymore. We want to know where you stand. We want to know how you feel and why, because we can get the facts in a matter of minutes, if not seconds, at least the facts that have been disseminated to one entity already. By the time it goes out, the world has it. So within minutes. So we got that part. Now what matters is for you to tell us how you feel about it. And so as a result, you have folks that struggle to make their thoughts and feelings matter. And that's why it's a struggle for them. That's why they want to go back to the good old days. Well, guess what? I'm somebody whose opinion matters. It resonates. We look at First Take, which has been number one since I arrived in 2012, and we've been number one for 9 years and counting, knock on wood. It could end tomorrow, but it can't take away what I've been able to do the last 9 years. First was Skip Bayless, and obviously then Max Kellerman. But the biggest thing about it is that when we say all of that, we got to understand, I wish it was that way too. I just accept the fact that it's not. And I adapt. And you have so many people that don't want to adapt. And then what we see now, and it's not to denigrate or berate, media columnists or people that are, you're all my contemporaries. And please don't get me wrong. I understand that it comes with the business. But one of the things that I'm mindful of is that you have people who try to make a career out of talking about people like me. And I'm like, well, here's my discomfort with that. I recall working in New York before and then Philadelphia after, where you had people who would literally market themselves to the teams that they were covering as the individual that would call out the media for them. And then, so I'll call out this guy in the media for you, so you could give me this information. So if Stephen A writes an article about the Philadelphia 76ers and they didn't like it, well, management for the Philadelphia 76ers could go and talk to that columnist and give him nuggets of information in hopes that he'll attack me. And that's what you use to make yourself bigger in this business. That's not what we're here for. That's not what we're all about. And so when I look at things like that and I see that, I try to stay above the fray and be able to stomach it all even though I know I'm a personality and open to attacks, I know where the agendas come from a lot more than people realize, certainly a lot more than the public realizes, and I'm prepared to handle it accordingly.
I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I do feel like social media has played a role in exposing the agendas, because I've always said this too. You know, sports fans are, you know, they're not exactly maybe the most sane and rational people, and they think every announcer hates their team and every announcer's
right.
What sports fans need to understand is, yes, announcers are 100% biased and not objective, because they're getting information from agents, PR people in the organization. So there's, you know, that I think is what has been able to be exposed in this age of social media, is you know more about relationships that people in the media may have with sources.
I do. I mean, I've been blessed and fortunate, Jim, not just to be incredibly connected, but here's what happens. And I'm not trying to say I know everybody, or I talk to everybody, but I would tell you that I'm in the loftiest position that I've ever been in my career. It's not because of the money. It's because of the platform and what I have done with that platform. My willingness to tackle issues, my willingness to make myself a target, because I'm not worried about how people feel if I'm passionate enough in my heart about where I stand and how I feel. That puts me in the eye of the storm. Well, here's what that says to a lot of other subjects that you may be talking about. He's brave. He's fearless. He ain't scared. We can talk to him, because if we are able to convince him that we're right and he sees our side of things, he won't be fearful in addressing it with the fervor it deserves. And so as a result of that, I get calls every day. And I mean, every day. And when I'm on First Take and people see my head down, I'm usually receiving texts, literally during segments, about what's going on. Man, here's what's going on. Man, why did you say that? You got to say this. Why didn't you say this? You should have said that. You letting them off the hook. Blah, 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 blah. This is every day, 5 days a week minimum. There is never, ever, and when I say never, I emphasize never. There is never a day that I go on the air that I'm not receiving texts from players, coaches, executives, scouts, player personnel directors, owners, league officials. There is not one single day that this happens that I'm not receiving text literally in a minute of every show and practically every segment. There may be a segment here or there that's missed, but trust me when I tell you, it never stops, because they feel you're in this role, this is your position, we can't be quoted, you need to tackle this issue. And most of the time I don't listen during the show. I make sure I wait, and then I'll address the issue after I have an opportunity to study it. But that's the kind of pressure seat that I'm in, but I believe I was made for it, so it doesn't faze me.
I don't want to get off on a tangent, but it seems rude someone would text you while you're in the middle of doing the show. At least wait till the commercial break. Can you?
What'd you say?
Is there a story you can share about someone who texted you during the show that ended up being a thing where you went on the, can you give us a big name that texted you something that either they were pissed or they wanted you to address? I don't know if you can reveal any of that, but
I can't tell you that.
I got you.
There have been trades.
Okay.
There have been issues that players have had with the media, players have had with other players, all of that other stuff. And literally they would say, what the hell are you talking about? I could tell you one story that I did. I was on First Take one day, before Kobe retired, and Kobe and I were pretty tight, not as tight as he was with other players, of course, because I was the media, but he and I were pretty tight, and God rest his soul. And he called me, and excuse my language, he said, he picked up the phone and he said, because he texted me and he said, call me. And then I had to wait. And then an hour later, because I was on the air, he said, motherfucker, I said, call me now, And so the minute the show was over, I was like, look, man, I got a job to do. I'm on the air, blah, 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 blah. He said, what the fuck did you just say? Did you just say blah, blah, blah? Have you lost your mind? And I'm like, no. I said, no, I didn't say it. This player said it. And I explaining it. He said, don't you ever go on the air and say no bullshit like that without calling me first again. That was like typical of certain things. You've got guys that, listen, I got a lot of these guys on speed dial. Not everybody, but a lot of them. And they're watching. And if I say something or some family member sees me say something, I'm going to get a call. And those are the players I laugh. I say it facetious because it is funny, but it's also true. I'm going to be very careful about what I say. Now, I try to be anyway, but especially with guys like that, because there's quite a few guys that are like Kobe in terms of that will pick up the phone and they will stalk me until they find me. You better call me. Oh, you didn't say that bullshit you just said on the air today. Call me back now because they got a problem with something that somebody told me about.
I love that he didn't realize you're on the air and can't make the phone call. That's a phenomenal. Have you heard from Kyrie Irving over the past 2 days? Has he texted you during First Take?
No. Kyrie and I haven't talked since last year because I got on him because of, the way he was talking to the media. And I said, that's not smart. It's just not smart. Especially here in New York. And he didn't like that. So we haven't spoken since, and that's fine.
I maybe if we have a little time at the end, we can get into this whole thing with Kyrie and the vaccines, because that's a wild story how it's going to play out with the NBA now saying they'll dock pay. But I just want to finish up because I appreciated what you said about, this is about making money. It is a business. And, recently, obviously, Max Kellerman left the show. Reports came out that you were responsible for it, and you didn't run from those reports. You came out and you said, I wanted to make the change. You took responsibility, which that does not happen anymore. ESPN PR could have put on a whole little show and song and dance for people like me and who cover this stuff. Why did you want to make that change?
I thought it ran its course. Even though we were number one, numbers were dipping. Chemistry was an issue. And, we needed to be better. I wasn't pointing the finger at him. I was saying we did not work as a pair. I think that Max is one of the nicest guys in the world. He's incredibly knowledgeable about his boxing and other sports, by the way. I knew that there were a plethora of opportunities within the company for him to be a part of, which has been proven because he's now with Keyshawn and Jay on a nationally syndicated radio show in the morning for 4 hours. And he's got his own national television show in the afternoons from 2 to 3. This just in, which I think is doing well, and I wish him nothing but the best. I think that people get construed thinking, well, you know what, Stephen A. doesn't like Max. They couldn't be further from the truth. I like him and respect him. We just weren't working anymore because the audience was telling us that we had essentially just flatlined. We were the same, and we weren't fresh together. And so as a result of that, I told the bosses how I felt. Wishing him nothing but the best, rooting for him, making sure everybody knows if he needed me, I wouldn't hesitate to be there for him. But I'm not going to apologize to anybody rather, for being committed to winning. And if I believe that I'm a part of a formula that's not going to win any longer, I'm going to change that formula. Whether it's me moving on or them moving on. And that is the way I have always been. And that is the way I will continue to be. I'm incredibly excited about the direction that First Take is in now. Molly Curran Rose has been sensational. So have all the contributors. Michael Irvin on Mondays, Keyshawn on Tuesdays, Marcus Spears on Wednesdays, Dan Orlovsky on Thursdays, Tim Tebow on Fridays, with all the contributors like Mina Kimes and Kimberly Martin and Ryan Clark and Paul Feinbaum and Jeff Saturday. And, the list just goes on and on and on. Bart Scott, Dominique Foxworth, everybody's been fantastic. But it's fresh voices going up against me. I think the show is incredibly exciting. We're excited to be doing it. We're having a blast and nothing feels stale now. And I've been doing this for 9 years. So I think I'd have a pretty good idea considering the fact that I've been doing it 9 years and I've been number one every single year that I've done it, I think I'd kind of have an idea of what works. If I sat up there and I said, it's his fault, that's a different argument. That's not what I said. What I said is we don't work together and a decision needs to be made regarding us. And that's what I was taking responsibility for. And I will never run from that.
Did he agree with your assessment?
No, he did not.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's got to be tough for you because you said you like him personally, and obviously you have this professional issue. And if he doesn't agree, I don't know what the status.
Well,
of
you could call it you could call it tough.
Yeah.
I'm personal friends with a lot of folks on the show. Let us feel like we flatlining and watch what happens to them.
So tell me,
I have a phenomenal boss in Dave Roberts who supports me at every turn. Let me drop in the ratings and watch what Dave Roberts does. Norby Williamson is an executive VP for ESPN, who's done a phenomenal job for us. Jimmy Pitaro, the president, we have a great relationship with each other. Let me start losing. Let the ratings plummet and watch what they do, Jim. You're gonna see a press release. You're gonna see interviews. Well, Stephen A. I mean, we love them, but things
change the direction.
Yeah. That's how it goes. That's the business that we're in. We all have to accept it and be clear. My day will come where it's my turn to step aside and say, okay, it's time for somebody else to be up in here because I'm no longer what I used to be. That's the business we're in.
Yeah. So tell me, is the goal, you mentioned the cast of characters that you have, you're rotating every day and bringing, is the goal though to find one co-host for you? Because you mentioned with Max chemistry, and I would think any show like that is so dependent on chemistry. And if you have so many people, is it a temporary thing with all the hosts, or is the goal to get one co-host to go against Stephen A. every day?
The public will determine that. If the public continues to keep us number one and it's fresh and lively and we're thriving, then the public would say, we like it just the way it is. If the public says, well, you know what? On Tuesdays, Keyshawn's ratings are double what Dan Orlovsky's ratings are on Thursdays, and Michael Irvin is triple what Tim Tebow is on Fridays, and all of this other stuff. Well, guess what? Then that will tell us what we need to do. That's the business we're in. This is the thing that shocks me. We get ratings every single day for every quarter hour. Mm-hmm. That's the business we in. We know exactly who's doing what and how valuable they are, what's working and what's not. That is what we use as the litmus test, along with other things, YouTube numbers, all of this other stuff, social media, all of those things come into play. But the numbers tell us the story about who's resonating, who's not, what works, what doesn't. And we make our decisions from there.
So tell me, what makes a good sports debate? What are you looking for in the person sitting across from you on any topic when you are going to go at it about something?
You got to have an idea of what the hell you're talking about. You got to know what you feel. You got to know what you feel and why. You have to be fearless in expressing those feelings. Be unapologetic about it. And sincerely have someone opposite of you who is opposite of you. They're not just looking across from you. They actually feel differently than you feel. And they're almost, if not equally, as unapologetic about expressing themselves as you are. Very simple.
You've done that show, you said, I think, since 2012. So that's 9 years.
Yes, when Skip Bayless asked me to come on board, yes.
Have you ever, though, once ever said something you didn't mean for the sake of an argument?
I've done it well, not that I didn't mean. I articulated myself in a fashion that can only be deemed as responsible. Let's take it to several accounts. I got suspended because I brought up the word provoke when we were talking about the whole Ray Rice thing. Right. I did not mean that the way that it came out. I didn't mean that. I was raised by 5 women, for Christ's sake. I put my hands on men who put their hands on women. I have never been a proponent of any kind of violence against women. I'm a guy that's in the streets, and if I saw a man putting his hands on a woman, I would try to stop him. So, of course, what I was talking about is if you're alone and some no good punk of a dude would choose to put his hands on a woman while you're in that moment all by yourself, be careful not to exacerbate a situation, because my God, there's nobody there to defend you, and who knows what he'll do. In other words, do something to buy some time to get out of that situation. That's all I meant, but it came out wrong. And so as a result of that, I had to own responsibility for misspeaking. Recently, the Shohei Ohtani thing, I wasn't saying he wasn't worthy of being marketed. I was saying Major League Baseball's history shows they won't market somebody like that. And it's a foolish decision on their part, and they need to do a better job of it. But that's not how it came out. And so when you look at things from that situation, certainly there have been times in my career where I wish that I could have a do-over and speak about things more articulate than I did.
So you went to a couple of heavy topics. I actually meant it sort of in a lighter way. I meant, like, do you ever say, like, oh, this guy's a top 5 quarterback, when you really think, oh, this guy sucks, but, we're trying to do good TV here?
I don't make up what I say, my man. And the reason I don't do that is because I'm the kind of person that would be judged significantly more harshly for doing so than others. When I'm tongue in cheek, it's clear to the audience I'm joking around. They know I'm playing. I don't give a serious face to something that I'm joking about and deceive my audience, because the number one thing that I have going for me is that the audience trusts me. They trust that I mean what I say, and I say what I mean, unless I tell them otherwise. Like if I'm acting around and playing around, I'll do something like that. They know that I play Brick on General Hospital, the soap opera, and stuff like that. So they know that. But for the most part, my number one quality is my authenticity, and the fact that I'm trustworthy, that people know I mean what I say and I say what I mean.
I'm curious, because you recently did something about Mitch Trubisky, which I found hysterically funny, the way you delivered it. It was in my column. You had the voice going high, low, and because he had said he was happy to be in a place where he was wanted, but he was the backup quarterback.
I did it on Stephen A's World. Stephen A's
and
World.
it was the delivery was hysterical. Yes. But what I'm curious about that is, because I said earlier, I mean, you're at the top of the game, so you can get away with a lot more that others may not be able to. Are you conscious? Is it a fine line to always make sure, like, let's not get too mean or get too obviously it's all about professional, but these are athletes. They see everything you say. I even noticed, like, on Twitter, you posted that video and you added Mitch Trubisky. So I was like, ooh, does Mitch want to see that? So I was just curious your mindset with that kind of thing.
Number one, I'm very sensitive to that, but I have a job to do. And the job is to call it like I see it. I'm very, very big on leaving your personal life to you. Your personal life is your story to tell. Your public life, I have every right to say what I want to say as it pertains to your performance on the field. If you perform in a certain way, and this is what we see, and you've put your abilities on display, I have a right to speak on it, just like people have a right to speak on me in regards to what I say on television. I accept that. Am I mindful and cognizant? Yes, because, it's interesting. My mother passed away in 2017, God rest her soul. And I hear my mother's voice in me all the time. And if I say something and I'm too harsh, I literally hear her with a Western accent. I did not raise you that way. Why do you have to talk like that? And I go, oh, she wouldn't be happy now. Dial it back. Recently, I had a conversation with Kevin Durant's mother, who's always been wonderful to me. And I remember when I first returned to work after my mother died, they were in Cleveland and going against the Cavs, Golden State. And Kevin Durant's mother was waiting outside the locker room for me to give me a hug and to give her condolences for my mom's passing. And she gave me a hug, and she spoke on behalf of all the NBA moms who have always been wonderful to me. And they were like, we love you. We're here for you, et cetera, et cetera. She said, but I'm going to get you for talking about my boy. And we just laughed and all of that stuff. And it was a laugh that I needed. But she had a serious conversation with me recently, just talking to me about the impact of my words and how it really affects how people are. And she wasn't getting on me at all. She was just being very respectful and just wanted me to be mindful of the kind of impact that I have. And so I'm the kind of person that I don't just talk to the players and team officials. I talk to wives. I talk to moms. I talk to brothers and sisters and family members and people like that, because I want people to know I'm not trying to be personal.
Right.
And I'm not trying to do something like that. And I'm somebody that can be reached out to. You can call me or confront me and say to me, I think you're wrong and here's why. And if I believe you and I said something on the air, I'll go on the air and apologize. I won't go in private and do it. If I said something on the air publicly, I'll correct myself publicly. If I apologize to you in private, I'll apologize to you publicly, because I'm a human being first. And that's what I try to do. And that's the kind of aura, the kind of just persona that I want to project. And I want people to know, I'm not evil. I'm not going to care about what you think if every little thing affects you about me doing my job. But I'm not going to be evil. I'm not going to be malicious. And I'm not going to wish harm or negativity or failure upon you. That's not what I'm doing. I might chronicle it when it happens, but I'm not wishing it. And that's the kind of message that I try to send.
When your mom was with us, how often would she scold you about something you said on the show? Once a week, once a month? How often?
About once a month. She wasn't a big sports fan, but she watched me. And literally, she didn't watch me for the sports content. She watched me to see how I talked about people. She wanted to pay attention to that, And I remember one time I told her a conversation. Michael Jordan confronted me years ago, in the early 2000s, because how I was talking about some of the picks that he had made or whatever. He said, Stephen A., it ain't what you say, man. It's the way you say it. And I looked at Michael and I said, can I have a job? Can I have a job? I said, because evidently that's what you want me to do. You want me to be your PR guy. I'm like, damn. I said, you have to be the only one that makes money. How I speak happens to work for me. Can I do my job? And he just started laughing. He said, I got you. I understand. I said, it's not like I'm faking. That happens to be how I talk. I'm an animated dude. Sometimes I'm not animated dude 100% of the time, but animation comes with how I talk. I project, I disseminate. I can be bombastic and demonstrative and also be mellow and calm. That's just who I am. I could use facial expressions to speak for me. Other time my volumes go up. Other time I'll whisper and I'll laugh and it's all of that comes along with it. Can I have a job? And he was like laughing. He's like, I got it.
That's great. And like you said at the beginning, there is an E in that ESPN for entertainment. If I can, two quick questions here to wrap, because I know you've got. Does Stephen A. Smith ever wake up in the morning, Monday through Friday, and not want to debate about sports and just maybe want to stay in bed and eat some pancakes and say, forget this shit for one day?
No, I never just want to lay in bed and do nothing. It's just that there are times where there's other things on my mind. Like, for example, when I hosted Jimmy Kimmel, that was a lifelong dream of mine to host late night. And that was a incredibly, incredibly big moment for me, because I didn't think about sports. I didn't want to think about sports. All I wanted to think about was doing that late night show. I mean, that particular day, sports did not matter to me at all. I didn't read the sports section. I didn't listen to sports talk radio. I didn't go online and read anything. I didn't want to know about it. All I wanted to do was that, because that moment was so important to me, to show that I could do late night, that I locked in and I zeroed in and nothing else mattered.
Is that the ultimate goal for you, to do late night?
Yes.
Is that the ultimate goal?
Other than, listen, I want to be a producer of content. That's why I have my own production company. That's a big, big deal to me, Mr. SAS Productions. But also hosting late night, yes. It's something that I want to do. And I got to tell you, I'm going to do it. I hope it's with Disney. I got 4 years left on my deal. But if they don't want to do it, then I'm going to be looking elsewhere, because I'm telling you, That's how bad I want to do a late night show.
So let's speculate here for a little bit. 4 years from now, your contract's up, and let's say Disney or someone else offers you a late night show. Is Stephen A. done with sports at that point?
No, not unless they insist on it. But if I had my druthers, I would do both because I can do both. And I know I can do both. I'm a workaholic like that. That's how I'm made. It's who I am, and I accept it. But for me personally, it's just a very, very big deal to me to just do that. And so I wouldn't want to give up First Take. I wouldn't want to give up the NBA, but feeling the need to be on television to talk sports as much as I already am, that would die down to some degree. But the jobs that I have in sports in terms of doing First Take in the NBA, that would not subside that much as far as I'm concerned. But I would definitely make concessions to do late night television.
If you were given your own late night show tomorrow and could book any guest to interview, who would it be?
Well, I would tell you Barack Obama would be one because I'm a fan. It would definitely be him. I'd like
Barack Obama to do some more interviews. I feel like he's like disappeared, and I don't like that. He's comforting. We need to see him more.
He's disappearing right now because he doesn't want to take the shine away from President Biden, but he needs to.
Take the shine. Take the shine.
Yeah, take the shine away. But I would tell you Barack Obama definitely would be one. Tiger Woods would be another. Okay. I would tell you that I've already had it with Snoop Dogg and Jamie Foxx. Because I love those guys. They're both personal friends, and they are just phenomenal. I think that Snoop Dogg is so brilliant, so gifted.
How does he not have a sports show? How does he not have a sports show?
Only because he doesn't want to.
Okay.
He doesn't want to. When the time is right, he'll do it, but he can do it if he wants to, especially when he's calling boxing, calling the Olympics. He's phenomenal. He's just phenomenal.
You know where he was the best? I apologize for interrupting you. Where he was the best is he did an NHL game, I think, a couple of years ago.
I don't know that. I heard about it, but I didn't see it.
Yeah.
And I happen to believe that Jamie Foxx is the most talented dude in Hollywood. But you know who else I love? And I tell you these guys right here. I'm a huge Mark Wahlberg fan, and he knows me and I know him. I'm a fan of his. They're just some good brothers, man. Him, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. If I had my druthers, I would love to interview all three of them together.
That'd be good.
Mark Wahlberg, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. I just think they're phenomenal. And I just think that, and of course, Charlize Theron, I love her. And you know, just so many others. But I'm a real big fan of her, Meryl Streep, people like that. You'd be surprised who I'd love to talk to, but Barack Obama and Tiger Woods would definitely be at the top of my list. And of course, the one and only Jack. There's only one, Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson, definitely so.
Yeah. I just want to clear up the question I asked about, do you ever not wake up and not want to, I didn't mean stay in bed. I meant like, do you ever just not want to argue about whether LeBron did this or whether KD is this or Brady?
Absolutely.
That's what
like I do get tired of debating sometimes, but I never get tired of talking sports. Like, I don't mind answering questions, but I don't always like debating. It's my job on First Take in the morning. But I don't know. This could potentially be the final run in 4 years. It depends on what I've got going on in my life. Don't get me wrong. I love First Take. I love doing it. But I'm not limited. I believe there's a lot more that I bring to the table that obviously could make a boatload of money for Walt Disney and ESPN or Hulu or anybody else under the Walt Disney umbrella or somebody else if it comes to that. But while also making some money for myself. My quality of life is also very, very important to me. The only reason I'm on the East Coast right now is because of my daughters. I mean, if it wasn't for that, I would be ready to move out west. I'm so sick of cold weather. I can't even. My attitude is.
But you seem like you're such a New Yorker.
Yeah, I am. But I've been here all my life, with the exception of when I went away to college for Winston-Salem State. I love Southern California. I hate their taxes. I'm a capitalist, unapologetically so. I hate their taxes, but at least I get that beautiful weather for those taxes in Southern California. That's not what I always get in New York. And so for me, my quality of life has become more important. And by the way, I just want to smile and laugh and have a good time more. and I want to celebrate greatness, not just with the athletes, but with the actors and actresses, hip hop artists and everything else. I'm tired of being this guy that's always perceived as just bringing the hammer and bringing the rain. I do a lot of celebrating of other people as well. Mm-hmm. And I want that to be recognized because that's important to me, because I think those people deserve to be celebrated a hell of a lot more than me.
Well, listen, you should be celebrated for what you do. You're at the top of your game. It's been proven. So listen, everyone should get their props when they're deserved.
That's for somebody else to determine, not me.
Right. All right. I made it through this whole interview without bringing up stay off the weed, mm-hmm. which I'm proud of. But I do have to ask, are you tired of that whole thing, or do you still get a kick out of it with the memes and the...
It's fun. It's fun because I mean it. I mean it because I don't mean it for everybody. Look, man, I got family members that smoke weed. Let's call it what it is, okay? I'm from the streets of New York City. Of course, I know people that smoke weed. When I say stay off the weed, I'm talking about people who allow it to cost them their money. That's what I'm talking about. Just like I have a problem with it's not that simple with the vaccinations, because with the vaccine, my issue with that is you have the potential to contaminate somebody else. So that pisses me off when you talk like it's a privacy issue. It's not a privacy issue. It's privacy when it affects just you. When it doesn't affect just you and it affects the masses and the public, well, damn it, that's a different problem altogether. And then that's not a privacy matter. So I completely applaud the NBA for taking the position that they've taken in terms of if the local government mandates are handed down and you don't follow that, you don't get paid. I completely support that. Yeah. Absolutely 1,000%. That's the right thing to do.
What'd you make? I'll end it with this. I mean, it's a weird one to end it on, but you were one of the first people, if not the first person, I believe, who had called out LeBron early on because LeBron had given the whole "it's a private matter" on the vaccine, and he revealed this week he is vaccinated. Yeah. And now let me just say this, because you probably don't. I love LeBron. I'm a huge LeBron fan.
So do I.
It bummed me out that he gave the line about, I did my research. LeBron, you're not doing any different research than anyone. It's the CDC. This is not a government issue. It's a medical issue. Like, this whole research is that line. Just
everybody's a researcher now. Everybody's a researcher now.
Google. That's the research.
How about that?
Yeah. And I love LeBron. I am a LeBron apologist. I thought, though, and then so he came out and he said he's not going to push anyone to get the vaccine. He thinks it's a private issue. What was your take on when he said that yesterday? Or Monday?
I accept it. What I would say to you is that I was happy that he did what he did yesterday, because I think that's all he needed to do.
I agree.
What I was unhappy about is that it took him this damn long. You could have done this a year ago, and you could have helped a lot of lives along the way. And, if you have reticence about putting something in your body, that's your right. If you're the kind of person that Googles and look at the ingredients of medicine that's given to you, as opposed to doing what 99% of us do, which is get a prescription from the pharmacy, from the doctor, go to the pharmacy and get the damn thing and take it. If you're different than that, more props to you. I'm not judging you. But you know what? It's a privilege to play in these leagues. It's not a right. And so the Kyrie Irvins of the world, who's making $35 million, the Andrew Wiggins of the world, who's making $30 million, you want to take that position, you go right ahead. I'm the NBA. You don't play and you don't get paid. It's very, very simple to me.
It's going to be it's going to be a fascinating story to see how it plays out. It really, it's going to be perfect for you and your show, because it's going to be, they take the money away. That's going to be the game changer.
Listen, bottom line is they should take the money away. They should take the money away. You should not, you listen. I don't want to talk to people about what to put in their bodies, but the reality of the situation is that you have the ability to compromise an entire multi-billion-dollar business. If you're not vaccinated and you come down with COVID, it's not to say that you can't come down with COVID even if you do get vaccinated, obviously, but the chances of doing so diminish greatly. And so knowing that is the reality, let's understand we all have an obligation to do all we can. And then for me as a Black man, where it resonates with me is that I was hesitant to take the vaccine. Then I had a gentleman by the name of Dennis Pullen, who's the president of Virtual Health in South Jersey, New Jersey, bring me down there and take me to the ICU. And I saw nothing but Black people in there, because white folks were gobbling up the vaccines. because it was available and they weren't as reticent about taking it as black people were because we were busy living off of stuff like the Tuskegee experiment and things of that nature. Well, I will remind people that when it comes to the Tuskegee experiment, people weren't being vaccinated. They weren't having things, placebos and all of this stuff injected into them. They weren't being treated. And they were led to believe they were being treated. And as a result of that, over the course of 40 years, these people were contaminated. This is an entirely different ballgame. There is a vaccine that has proven for the most part to be healthy. Over 6.2 billion people have taken the vaccine. So knowing all of those things, for you to sit there and to say it's a private matter, damn that. Stay your ass home. Don't come, don't play, lose out your money, and watch the league move on. Because too much latitude and too much leeway has been given. We are the society that we are because we're a land of laws, and we understand where level of urgencies kick in and takes place. And we've forgotten that along the way. And everybody just wants to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, how they want to do it, with no consequences whatsoever. Well, guess what? You can do what you want. But understand there's the consequences that come along with that. I have no problem with the NFL taking that position. I have no problem with the NBA or any other sports league taking that position. And not only do I co-sign with them, I will stand tall in supporting their position on this matter because they are right.
Well said. Well said. I mean, at the end, also put all that. Don't we want to get out of this mess already? I mean, let's get out of this mess already. That's what
it is. What it is, man.
Yeah. Stephen A. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this, and I appreciate you doing this from your car. And First Take and Stephen A.'s World. Thank you a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Take care of yourself.
You too. Be well.